Hey y'all D2ers, Jason here, back again for the D2. I'm extremely pleased to be back along with Fabio to bring you interviews from great artists and studios within the ArtViz field and beyond. In this week's video, I got a chance to sit down with Ioanna Ivanova, who is a 3D artist at INK in London. She also sits on the board of the London chapter of SIGGRAPH. I had a great time chatting with Ioanna. She is an endlessly positive person and extremely passionate about the work that she does. So if you like this video, and I think you will, give it a like, leave a comment, and share it with your friends. If you haven't done so already, make sure to hit that subscribe button to keep up with all the great content that we have coming your way in the next weeks. So now let's get right to the interview. Enjoy it, and I'll see you for the next one. Hi, Ioanna. It's very nice to have you here for the D2 Talks. I appreciate you taking the time out to do this with us.
Yes, thank you very much for inviting me.
And we're talking to you from London, right? You're in London?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would like to start off by getting a little information about your background. Maybe you can tell us, what you studied and how you kind of came into working in the job that you're working in.
Oh, okay. So that's a cool one. I have a very inspirational story of how I started working in INK. So I'm going to share that. So everything started when I was around like 7 years old. I was really impatient kid. I was so anxious all the time. I couldn't find a place to stay. I was just like constantly moving, so active. And my mom decided to sign me up for drawing classes.
Okay.
And she was like, oh, maybe that will give her a little bit of, calm the temper down. So I was, I got obsessed with drawing. And then I was like, oh, I'm actually really enjoying this. What I can do in the future with that. And I watched a film called, I think, The Story of Pixar or something similar. And then I realized that animation and, the process of animation is actually a job. And it got me really interested in traditional animation and 3D animation. But in Bulgaria, 3D animation wasn't that popular. So it's still like a small industry in there. And the places to go and learn that, actually study that in university, are not a lot. So I decided that I want to go for the best. And my knowledge then was like, oh, England and Bournemouth University, when I went, is like the best place to go.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, okay, I'm going to do that. So I came to England, went to Bournemouth University, graduated successfully. It was all good. And then I went home for like a month or two just to like cool down and do nothing because it was quite heavy, 3 intense years at university. And I attended one of the Chaos Group events called, I think it was called CG Code for Art back then.
Yeah, I remember.
But it was, it wasn't Total Chaos, which is
now. It was
now.
before, yeah.
And yeah, it was 4 years ago. Yeah. And I met, so I was like, that's the best story so far. I was about to leave the second day after I've seen the Chaos Group presentation about the Bulgarian village. Like they had this amazing image full of details and all these characters. And I was so impressed. I was like, oh my God, I love this image. And the presentation, the way they did it was so interesting as well. And I really wanted to go and speak to them, but I couldn't find this strength in myself because I was just graduated. I was like so shy and didn't want to go and introduce myself. So I was just about to go home. And at the door, I was like, okay, maybe I should go back and speak to them because that's an opportunity to meet people. And I went to speak to them. And then I got introduced to Alex, who after that introduced me to Kamen, who is one of the co-founders of INK. And this is how I actually got my job. Like I gave him my business card to Kamen, who was on the same event, and they contact me back. So it was like that one step I made to go back and like force myself to introduce myself to people was just such a good move from my side. And it was really inspirational. And this presentation and what I did actually made me realize that networking is really important and meeting people is really important and introducing yourself to people and getting to know what they do, like, expose yourself and let other people inspire you as well. It's just very important. especially in this industry when we are all creatives and, sharing knowledge, getting to know people, their art and everything. Yeah. So that this is how I actually came here. And I did 1 month internship and then I stayed here for like, what, 3 years and a half now?
Yeah, great. But that's a great story, and I think it actually is totally true. I mean, it's like that 1 second where you decided to go back.
Yeah.
Like the impact of that is quite huge, and
Yeah. Yeah.
it's something I try to always tell people. That meeting people is not just about being friendly necessarily. You want to be
Yeah.
friendly,
No.
but you also they don't know you exist unless you introduce yourself. Nobody knows you're out
Yeah,
there.
exactly. Yeah, exactly, exactly. I mean, yeah, when you think about it, it's like, oh my God, it's quite scary to go and speak to people about, in general, to speak to people. It's not everyone feels comfortable in
Right.
this situation. But I feel like if you're out of you always perform the best if you're out of your comfort zone, because it kind of, I know it sounds really cheesy, but it gives you this strength and like this, you're brave and you can do it. And that's, yeah, that was a good move.
It gets your adrenaline pumping.
Yeah, exactly. Which is really important.
Yeah.
Essentially, it's like a thing that, I don't know, just makes you do more.
And what is it about ink that you love, for instance? Like what is it about working there that you love? The company
Um,
itself.
Everything. No, I
Great,
love.
that's good.
Yeah, I love the fact that it's the teamwork is really good. We're actually a creative studio as well. So
Hmm.
we here we build ideas and we build something that comes from our minds. And like you sit together with the guys and you like talking about ideas and imagining stuff and then building that as a production as well. So we're a creative production studio, which is like that's really interesting. And this is what I love the most because being around such an incredibly talented team is so important for your personal development as well. And we also have, I don't know, I love everything because we also have inside projects, which is great, gives you opportunity to develop yourself, your skills as well, and you come up with ideas. You're always listen. They always listen. We always listen to each other's
Hmm.
ideas, trying to get inspiration out of each other. Yeah, so that's my top
No, that's great.
thing
That's
about
great.
ink.
I'm glad that you're able to find a place that's really makes you happy to work because that's really important, for your also for your
Yeah,
mental sanity.
yeah, no, totally.
um, so I want to jump back into talking about you now, and is there a lot of artists talk about something they saw maybe along the way as they were developing, or someone that they looked up to, or something that was inspiring them? Do you have something specific maybe from back in the time, maybe even before you went to university, where you thought, I really want to do this?
Yeah, well, I've always been a massive fan of Walt Disney, and I
Mm-hmm.
know it sounds a bit like cliche, oh, she's doing animation and she likes Walt Disney, but essentially the story of his life is really interesting, and the way he was so ahead in the future. I mean, his vision he had and his ambition and the way he was imagining stuff that were never done. I really love that. And the way he kind of made this incredibly massive company that produced so many iconic animations and essentially changed the animation world in general. And he started like as a one person
Mm-hmm.
drawing, not having money, not having people didn't believe in him, to like building such an incredible world. So that's my number one inspirational story because I believe in vision and I believe if you have an idea and if you're sure and if you're into it and you believe strongly, it will happen. So yeah, I think that's my number one.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah,
I don't think it's cheesy. I think because
a little bit.
there's something that but it's it encompasses everything from the the mentality of starting out, but also turning that that creative art and work into a business that you can actually sustain.
Yeah.
You can actually work from that, and to create it in a way that it is sustainable. I mean, it's still, the
Yes.
company still exists, so
Yeah, exactly. And it's
he's
doing
been
so
gone a
well.
long time. So
Yeah, no. And it's doing well, and they have incredible production. Obviously, everything's changing for them in terms of like business, but I'm looking at like more of the romantic point of view of like someone sitting in their bedroom having this idea of creating feature animations with, back then with sound was like, wow, you have sound. So, building this thing to like something so huge is like incredible, and
yeah,
having this strong vision in your head. Yeah, it's not everyone have that, and I really admire people who do have it.
yeah.
Yeah.
So regarding this kind of, this is one part, the vision and everything else, but is if you get down to like the specifics about things, is there something that you do like during your daily work, that to help you take action on things and make sure that you get everything done when you need to get it done, or is it just a free for all?
Well, I'm trying to be organized, that's for sure, but it doesn't happen all the time. I'm writing to-do lists, which
Yeah.
I completely ignore during my day, and I'm like, oh, but no, I'm getting better now. I'm like, I think the satisfaction of taking things off is like really good. But I don't really have anything in particular I do. I make a lot
Yeah.
of coffees. That's it. That's my thing. But yeah, I'm just sitting down,
But
focusing.
as a company as well, though, there must be something you guys do in order to organize like the projects. And
Oh
I mean,
yeah,
I was talking specifically about you at that moment, but there must be something also the company does in terms of the organizational part.
Yes, we do. We have incredible producers who are really spot on.
Mm-hmm.
And we have every morning, if it's like really busy, we'd have going to work and having a meeting about the projects that are currently going on, setting tasks. We have, I don't know, four big, massive whiteboards that we write all the tasks, and then whoever is done with the task, they just
Mm-hmm.
tick that off, and that helps for everyone to just keep track on what's going on. And we'd have probably another meeting in the afternoon and catch up on what is done, what needs to be done, and all this communication is happening, which I think is really important. People are actually talking to each other.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, it's analog. It's interesting. It sounds
yeah.
interesting. It sounds like what you just explained. There's no like digital stuff. It's like it's on the board and people are, talking to each other, and it's not like going through the computer or whatever, which is like these days becomes more common. But
Yeah. Well, to be honest, we are a team of 15 people here,
yes, yes, I
and
understand.
yeah, and it's sometimes easier to just Skype someone, and that was before we were more into like, oh, I'm gonna Skype the person next to me, but then we realized it doesn't make any sense to do that because first of all, no one is looking at the Skype straight away. Or you need something straight away. And second, you would always explain yourself better if you just go to the person and speak to them. And we are currently trying to promote the communication more
Mm-hmm.
because I think it's really important for a team to be able to speak to each other and communicate in a right way. And this is why we try to just gather together, make everything a little bit more away from the screen. Let's focus on this board. We draw storyboards. We also draw layouts of stuff, and we communicate these ideas. Yeah, it's so much better than just be on Skype all day or like on your computer trying to
Yeah.
organize stuff around.
Yeah, no, it's great. And how long has Ink been around as a company?
We just turned 10 years last
Mm-hmm.
November,
Wow.
so it's
Yeah.
10 years. Yeah, we had a great celebration.
Good. I also wanted to ask you: is there something, you have, you're young and you're at the beginning of your career, but is there something you look back on and you think, oh, I would like to have, maybe I would have done something a little differently? I mean, I know it's like not that long ago, but maybe even when you were a kid. I don't know.
Well, I think of always improving myself, and when I think back, I'm always like, oh, I could have. done things a little bit faster because I'm always like, oh, I could have go to university a year ahead, or like maybe go to school a year before, or
Mm-hmm.
maybe go just do things a little bit faster.
Yeah.
And but yeah, but that doesn't really happen. You need to be patient and wait for things. And also like I'm trying to improve my time management as well, because that's a thing that really, yeah, I'm not really good with that.
So
So when I look at,
so it would have been good if you'd have done that like before, so that you could be like already into.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. But I'm learning. Keep on learning.
We have these questions that we like to ask, but for I think some of them don't make as much sense for some people. I think for you, probably if we talk to you in 10 years and ask that
Yeah,
question, you'll have a definitely a different answer maybe, or
yeah,
a
for
better
sure. I
answer.
mean,
Because
yeah,
yeah, I think it's but
still no regrets.
yeah, no, that's good. I think that's important too. Yeah, that's the other thing. It's uh is there anything that you failed at during your life so far, that made you like I don't know, that turned out to be a good lesson for you, or has everything gone well?
Well, everything's going well, to be honest.
Good, good.
Yeah, I don't. Well, no big failures for now. Touch wood. Everything is working out really well and as planned,
Yeah.
because I am trying to plan as much as possible, even though it's a bit unclear sometimes. I kind of have these ideas for the future, and one way or another, I get there. Um, so yeah, I don't really have anything that's been a failure for me so far, but it surely I don't. Mm, the way I think about failure is not a failure, it's a lesson.
Yes.
So if something doesn't work out for you, it doesn't mean you failed. It means like, oh, that's a great lesson, and I can take everything from this situation and transfer it into a good situation. Like taking the positives and ignoring the negatives. It's a bit like, yeah, just taking this experience, make it good.
Well, that
That's
is the
it.
idea, yeah, and that you can make sure to learn from what goes wrong. I have another question about like, since I mean the question is talking about like being able to say no to things, but I know as if since you're working inside of a company, um, that's maybe not always a possible thing. This kind of thing is good for someone who's like working by themselves, or I get with
Yeah.
clients and directly and so on. But have there ever been situations inside the office where saying no was actually something that helped you out?
Yes, a lot
Yeah,
of situations
yeah,
actually. Saying no, I didn't know how to do that,
yeah.
but I'm learning, because you find out that when you say no, you actually make you prioritize work, and not even work, just things in life in general. And I see no as a really great word as well, of like in terms of motivational word. And I know it's a little bit different, but it's still related to no. So if I, for example, have something to do and someone tell me, "Oh, you can't do that," it's a no. You're not gonna do it. You're not good enough. And I'm like, come on. So no is like, no, I can do this. No is always like makes me feel like I need to prove it. I need to prove myself that that can happen. So, a no is a really powerful word in terms of getting your motivation in a next level and like proving yourself and someone else that you can do it and you're capable of doing stuff. Yeah. And in terms of saying no in the team, I think, yeah, sometimes you have to, just because you can't do everything people want from you, you know?
Yeah, yeah. But that's a great twist what you just said about like saying no, but you were saying it in the
Yeah.
opposite of what like saying no. It wasn't like saying no, I'm not going to do something. It was like no, I can do this. And I
Yeah,
think
exactly.
that's
Well,
actually really I never thought about it like that, but it's absolutely true. It's
yeah.
like you put a positive spin on it.
Yeah, well, yeah, I'm always trying to do that just because, well, I don't want to live in any negative
Yes.
world. So, Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the idea is that you are able to, like, if you're doing it in the negative way, meaning saying, I'm saying no to something, I'm not going to do this. It's more about like protecting yourself from, I don't know, overzealous clients and things like that. But I really love what you did with it because you totally turned it around, and made it like no, meaning no, I can do something. And I think that's fantastic. We made a little break there for a second, and you mentioned something to me that you actually thought of something that you wish you had known before,
Yeah.
that you would do differently or something like that. Let me hear it. I'm curious.
I'm just because I was talking about these whiteboards and all these communication happening thing, and I remember one thing actually I wish I knew and I knew how to do before is like don't get really attached to your ideas because when I started working, I actually no when I went to university, I was like, okay, I have this idea and I'm so into it, so attached to it, and everything I do is like so precious. But then it might turn out in the future when you work with clients that your idea is not the best idea. And you have to not get too attached, or maybe you have a great idea for a shot, or like for you've executed something like animation in a really nice way, and then the client is like, oh yeah, but we don't want that to be in the film. Or you get I wish I knew how to not get attached, but it took me some time and now I'm getting better. And also like another thing I thought of is having simplicity is the key and not overcomplicate stuff, because especially in this industry like advertising and whatever we do, launching new products, films, it's really about the message. And if the message is clear and if the message is like spot on, you get the idea straight away, it's not complicated, then everything is working. There is nothing that can go wrong. And I used to get into these very complicated ideas that you need to find the hidden message and all these things. And then I realized, while I'm actually working here, I realized that it's just as simple as you can get it. It's the best. Um,
Hmm.
and then put effort on like making it look good and execute your simple approach, execute in a good way, and then you have like a nice product at the end. Yeah, so this is why I thought
No,
when
I'm glad that you brought it up because I think that was a
yeah.
really good point. I like that, and I'm glad we got it in here in the video, in the interview. Um, do you read a lot?
Yep,
And if you
a
do,
lot.
do you read any things that are like relevant to like the creative business or creative work, or is it more like fiction kind of stuff?
I read I read self-improvement books,
Okay.
and I also read quite weird spiritual
Okay.
books as well. But I'm trying to look at like perspectives of every book I read, how that can help me in my personal life and how
Hmm.
that can help in my professional life. Um, Recently, I've read The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari. I think it was the book. It's interesting. It's really interesting. It has great ideas there about life, but you can also get and transfer this into your creativity.
Hmm.
And I was thinking one of the points it's made there. It's the power is in the simple things, and that was my mind went straight to like, oh, this is what I've learned at work as well. The power is in the simple things, that you don't have to be complicated about things. You can just take the simplest approach and it's always successful. And yeah, um, I'm just not reading specifically books about creativity, but I'm trying to get all these ideas from different sources that I
Hmm.
read. Yeah.
No, that's great.
Uh, yeah, and yeah, I have a lot. I have another one which I finished recently. It's the Power of Habit. Gives you a really powerful point of view of like what the habit is, how you provoke a habit, and how you change a habit. Because I'm currently trying to get into a habit to go to the gym really strictly, and then
That's a
to
tough one.
organize. yeah, it's very tough. It's very tough. Um, and then organize my life in a way that, oh, I have this good habits to do stuff. And especially at work as well, that helps a lot to have like, oh, be structured, be organized, be, as efficient as possible. It still can be a habit in a way.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm reading a
Great,
lot.
great. Is there anything that you've heard people in the creative industry, or in the industry, say that you think is a bad recommendation, like related
Uh,
to anything, business or creativity or whatever?
well, I think overtime. Working overtime is not the best, and it's been advised everywhere. Like in university, when we used to have visiting speakers, people from the industry, they would be like, oh, you have to work overtime, you have to do that, you would always be asked to work overtime. And to be honest, I mean, yes, it happens. It should happen. I understand that, and I'm really passionate about everything I work on. So sometimes I'm like, I just want to stay and finish it. I just want to
Mm-hmm.
do it. I just want to see how it goes. But it's not something that it has to be tolerated. It's a thing that can happen, but it's not something that you warn people that your life's gonna be like this. Because I feel like we don't pay enough attention on balanced life and mental health and all these things. Um, it's not, yeah. So that's one thing that always gets a bad impression in me, that is happening in this industry, and I completely understand, because a deadline is a deadline. You have to hit it.
Yeah. So another thing is, you are actually one of the are you one of the co-organizers of the 3DS London?
Oh yeah.
You are.
Oh, we just have the last night's event.
Yeah. As a co-organizer of the 3DS London, you're in a good position to answer this question, because I feel like, do you feel like that the communities really comes together and helps each other out? You think there, and on top of that, do you think there's something they could do that we could do better together?
Um, Yeah, I think yeah. Well, first of all, yes, I think the community is really friendly, really really stuck together. But I feel there is like separation between different aspects of the whole 3D CGI world, where some people are like, oh, I'm VFX person, and some people are like, oh, I'm architectural vis person, and some people are like, I'm just animator. For me, it's we're a great industry, and all of us, whatever aspect of the CG you're doing, you're still in this community, and you should not separate yourself from like, oh, I only do architectural vis, or oh, I only do big feature films.
Mm-hmm.
You should be able to extract knowledge from every single person in this industry, because essentially what we all sit on the computers working with the same softwares every day, getting like ideas and inspiration from each other. So I think yeah, the community is great together. We really help each other, but I feel like we need to even look at the bigger picture and like try to get even more together than we are.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, and we're trying to promote that. We're trying to get people excited about animation, VFX, film in general, all these different aspects of this industry, and as well as like SIGGRAPH, because I'm part of SIGGRAPH as well, SIGGRAPH London.
Mm-hmm.
We're trying to do the same. Like we have like, events every now and then with like feature films and making of, and like big speakers, the VFX supervisors or whatever. But at the same time, every month we organize like drink and draw, which is like
Mm-hmm.
basically you draw. We have bring your own animation, which is essentially you bring your portfolio and you go around with people, you sit, communicate with them. So it's like people with absolutely different backgrounds are coming. So as well, we're trying to like with these two organizations, we're trying to get people together, get excited about everything CG.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, and I think it's very helpful for people to realize that, oh, I do architectural vis, but I actually got really inspired by this massive VFX film I saw the other day, or the VFX presentation, and I can imply this knowledge into my work.
Yes, I've
So
learned
this,
much
yeah,
from watching other people from other industries and how they manage things, because the reality is what I do as an architecture visualizer is actually relatively simple. Like in terms of
oh,
what I mean is the complexity of creating it, because it's generally not. It's the turnaround times are short, and uh, it's not that much information that you have to deal with. It depends on the
yeah,
project size, but when you look at like feature films and what they have to do to organize and how they manage it, and also just all of the aspects, the pre-production, everything. Um,
yeah,
this we feel very strongly as well that we like showing this to people as well at the conference, people who aren't
yeah.
doing ArcViz, because it's important.
It
Um,
is important. It definitely gives you idea of how big this industry is and how many opportunities and possibilities you have to create your own work and, to also get your own ideas, execute them in a different way. Maybe you learn something that you don't know, and it'll help your pipeline and your approach to your own work. Doesn't matter that it comes from a VFX um, people that telling you this, you know.
Yeah, I think that's where it also comes into play, that there needs to be a lot of openness in between, because everybody has the same problems.
Yeah,
Nobody's really going to steal something from someone else. Even
yeah,
and if the community's strong, they especially will be. They won't steal things, because then they'll be completely cut out of the community, because that's what part of what happens. I think we're lucky though with social media these days. It has made it a lot easier to connect with people,
yeah,
and to organize them and get them
yeah,
together. So and they like to come together live to meet people that they've met on social media maybe only, for instance.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm very happy about that as well, that that we're able to create like a space for people to meet.
Yeah, exactly. It's really interesting, especially when I was, because last night we have the 3DS event, and I was looking at all these people, and I knew some of them working like massive VFX companies, and some of them were like from architectural V studios, some of them were like architects, and having this wide range of people joining together, like communicating ideas, even just like for a chat, for a drink. It's just so interesting and so satisfying to see how people get together and get excited about the same thing. It's just it's very, yeah, rewarding.
Yeah. Uh, I,
Yeah.
so to move on, do you have a purpose in your life? Like, do you have something where you feel like, this is the thing that I'm here for? You said
I
you
hope I do.
I think it actually, maybe you said you read some spiritual books sometimes. Maybe this is a good
Mm,
segue into
yeah.
that, right?
Yeah, this is my yeah, I do read a lot of spiritual books. And this is my old time question. I'm like, what is my purpose? What am I here? Um, well, I think it's a really tough question. I don't know if I have a purpose, but I know that I want to enjoy my life and everything I do.
Yeah.
And this is why I've chosen something that I really love doing for my everyday work, you know. And for, yeah, for my, in a spiritual way, I think my purpose is just bring joy to people's lives.
Yeah, no,
And
that's great though.
yeah, and bringing a little bit of a positivity in the world, because it's always needed, and looking on the bright side as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is like so much to say, so I don't know what to say exactly. It's like
I think
having a
it's
purpose.
I think it's also tied to there's purpose and there's goals, and
Yeah,
purpose is a very philosophical question,
exactly.
and
It is very
goals are
philosophical.
tied to purpose, but it's our own projection of what
Creation.
the yeah of
Yeah,
what our purpose is, and our goals come from maybe what we think we're supposed to be doing here.
yeah,
I don't. That wasn't a question. I just just
yeah. No, you're
just
just
thought about
thinking.
it. But
Yeah.
um,
Do you have a purpose?
do I?
Do you
Yeah,
know what your
you
purpose
know,
is?
this is a really hard question for me to answer as well, because
Yeah,
I actually think that the fact that we are all here is a coincidence.
Oh, I
I
see.
know that sounds could sound very depressing, but I don't think it is. I actually think that in a way it means that we are in charge of, how we carry ourselves in the world. And because we are here, we're not here for any specific reason, it's maybe even more important that we, it's like it's really coming then from the person themselves if they want to be a good person or not. So uh, I feel like you. I want to be positive. I want to help people. I think my purpose
Yeah,
is here is
exactly.
to help people. That is part of it. Of course, there's family and everything else, which is important as well.
Yeah, yeah, of
But
course.
I don't know, helping people and making people. I like to make people, content and happy, and maybe sometimes that's a not a good thing, but it
Yeah,
can
well,
also. But that's how I see it.
yeah, yeah, I totally agree with you, actually. Yeah, helping people. It's the best we can do, actually.
Yeah, it is, and
Yeah, helping each
yeah.
other.
Wow, this conversation really went deep. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. That's my favorite. I'm into deep conversations. I don't know how to do the other one.
No, I think it's fine. I'm gonna actually, maybe I'll even say something. Make sure you skip ahead to this minute in the video because we really get going philosophically.
Yeah.
But no, let's finish up on a question which is somehow related, and that would be, what do you think for you? What does success look like? And it doesn't have to be. This can be as personal as you want. It doesn't have to be related with business or work or anything like that. But what does success look like to you?
Yeah. Well, as I said to you, that means I believe everyone is having different visions and different perception of what success is. And for
Yes.
some people, it's like building a family. For some people, it's building a great business. For some people, everyone is different. Everyone defines success in a different way. For me, success is being happy and being satisfied with what I do, with my life in general, with my inner and outer self, for having this, you know, knowing that you're doing your best in whatever direction you are going. Either you do your business side or into your personal life. Being successful means being balanced
Mm-hmm.
inside and being happy. And I know I would never be calm in terms of like not emotional, but getting into that inner state when you're like, okay, I'm calm now, I'm satisfied with everything and everything's going in the right way. For me, that's being successful. And of course, in like if I have to skip into like a business point of view, for me, success would be I want to have my own studio one day.
Mm-hmm.
I want to have my own business, so that would be a great success for me because at the same time I would know that I have put all my efforts to achieve this goal and this vision. So I will be satisfied. That means I'll be successful for myself. Um, so success means so much. I don't know. It's just the balance in your soul and your mind.
Yeah.
That's successful for me.
Okay.
Um, yeah,
Ioanna, thank you very much for taking the time to do
yeah.
this interview with us. We look forward to. I'm sure that people are going to love it, and we look forward to releasing it.
I
Um,
really hope so.
so just hang on for a second. I'm going to stop the recording, and then we can say goodbye properly. Okay. So
Yeah,
thanks again.
yeah. Thank you very much for having me.